Have you ever heard someone say that weight loss medication can eat away at muscle along with fat? This phrase may sound like an exaggeration, but it carries an important warning, especially for those over 60. Medications in the GLP-1 class, known by names such as Ozempic, Wegovy, or Mounjaro, arrived with the promise of helping people with obesity or diabetes lose weight quickly and effectively. In a short time, they became a topic in newspapers, health programs, and even family conversations, because the results are impressive. Patients managed to lose in months what previously took years of diet and effort to achieve. But alongside this victory comes a silent concern that can be costly: the loss of muscle mass. For those over 60, maintaining muscle is not just a matter of aesthetics or strength, but of survival and quality of life. Muscle supports bones, protects against falls, helps control blood glucose, and preserves independence in daily activities. If it disappears along with fat, the price of weight loss may be far too high. Imagine someone who finally manages to reduce belly fat, control blood pressure, and feel lighter, but at the same time begins to struggle to get up from a chair, carry a grocery bag, or even walk long distances. The risk of falls, hospitalizations, and loss of autonomy grows alarmingly when the scale shows fewer pounds, but much of that weight has come from muscle. The dilemma, therefore, is real: how to enjoy the benefits of GLP-1 medications without paying with physical strength. How to lose weight healthily, preserving strength, mobility, and independence. These questions are essential because the natural process of aging already causes a progressive decline in lean mass. After 50, every decade can bring an 8 to 10% loss of muscle if nothing is done. Combining this natural decline with the rapid weight loss induced by medication greatly increases the risk of sarcopenia, the name for severe and progressive muscle loss. That is why this subject is no longer just a medical curiosity, but an urgent public health issue. Thousands of older adults are being prescribed these medications and starting treatments without fully understanding that, along with fat, a valuable part of the body may also be lost. And this is not about demonizing these drugs. They bring real advances, reduce the risk of diabetes and obesity complications, and offer hope for those who have tried everything without success. But what must be clear from the beginning is that rapid weight loss by itself does not guarantee better health. The way the body loses weight is as important as the number on the scale. In this script, we will dive into how these medications work, what risks they pose to muscle mass, and most importantly, how to create a practical plan to avoid sarcopenia. You will discover why protein becomes even more essential, how strength training is irreplaceable even for those who never liked the gym, and which medical adjustments make a difference in this process. The goal is not to turn people away from GLP-1s, but to show that the secret lies in using them with strategy, science, and awareness. This way, the promise of a lighter body does not turn into a trap of fragility. To understand why these medications gain so much attention, we must first look at how they work inside the body. GLP-1 drugs are not magic pills, but molecules that mimic a hormone naturally produced by our intestine called glucagon-like peptide 1. This hormone is released whenever we eat and has three main functions. It stimulates the pancreas to release insulin to control blood sugar, reduces the production of glucagon, another hormone that increases glucose, and slows stomach emptying, creating a much longer-lasting feeling of fullness. In other words, the body feels satisfied for longer, hunger decreases, and calorie intake drops significantly. When a person starts using medications such as Ozempic, Wegovy, or Mounjaro, this entire process is intensified. The result is a consistent decrease in appetite and often a repulsion toward large portions or ultra-caloric foods. This explains why so many patients report that they suddenly can no longer eat as before and lose weight without extreme diets. In addition, GLP-1s bring proven benefits in blood sugar control, reducing cardiovascular risk, and even improving some inflammatory markers, making them powerful tools for those dealing with type 2 diabetes and obesity. However, this effectiveness comes with a side effect that must be seriously discussed. Weight loss does not distinguish between fat and muscle. When the body enters a state of intense and prolonged calorie deficit, it seeks energy from all available reserves. This means that, along with adipose tissue, part of the muscle mass is also broken down to meet energy needs. That is why clinical studies show that, on average, 20 to 40% of the weight lost with these medications may come from muscle. And this number tends to be even higher in older adults, precisely because the muscle base is already reduced by natural aging. Another important aspect is that GLP-1s alter not only hunger, but also the pleasure of eating. Many patients report a loss of interest in protein-rich foods such as meat, chicken, or eggs, and an unconscious preference for lighter meals that are low in essential nutrients. If this behavior is not adjusted, the risk of muscle loss increases even further, since protein intake is fundamental to maintaining muscle fibers. Thus, what seems like healthy weight loss at first glance can turn into a dangerous case of accelerated sarcopenia if diet and lifestyle are not carefully monitored. Therefore, understanding the physiological basis of GLP-1 is essential. It is a powerful ally in the fight against excess weight and diabetes, but it requires strategy so the body does not pay a high price. Especially for those over 60, the challenge is not only losing fat but ensuring that strength, energy, and independence remain intact. And this is only possible when the use of the medication is accompanied by dietary adjustments and specific exercises that compensate for natural muscle loss. Few people talk about it, but the true threat looming over the lives of those past 60 is not just obesity, hypertension, or diabetes. It is sarcopenia. This technical term describes the progressive and pronounced loss of muscle mass that comes with aging. Unlike what many think, it is not merely a matter of becoming weaker or struggling to lift weights. Sarcopenia undermines basic functions: walking speed, the ability to rise from a chair without support, balance when climbing steps, safety while carrying a grocery bag. When these everyday movements become difficult, the entire life is affected because independence begins to disappear little by little. After the age of 50, muscle loss becomes noticeable. Studies show that each decade, we can lose between 8 and 10% of muscle mass if nothing is done. After 70, this drop may reach 15% in 10 years, turning bones, joints, and even metabolism into fragile parts. The direct consequence is an increase in falls, which rank among the main causes of hospital admissions in the elderly. A simple fall in the bathroom or the living room can result in serious fractures, loss of mobility, and long recovery periods, often without full restoration of autonomy. The problem becomes even more serious when we add the use of medications that accelerate weight loss, such as GLP-1. The body does burn fat, but it also sacrifices part of the musculature already diminished by age. This creates a double effect: rapid weight loss accompanied by extreme fragility. Imagine someone who loses 10 kilograms in a few months. If 4 of those kilograms come from muscle mass, what was supposed to be a victory can turn into a risk of functional disability. What should be a liberating treatment can become a trap that increases fear of falling, dependence on family members, and difficulty in performing basic tasks. Beyond physical loss, sarcopenia directly impacts metabolic health. Muscle is one of the main regulators of blood glucose. The less muscle, the lower the body's ability to handle sugar, increasing insulin resistance and worsening exactly what the medication was supposed to treat: diabetes control. In other words, the patient loses weight, but the metabolism may become more deregulated, creating a dangerous paradox. Furthermore, muscles are reservoirs of amino acids that the body uses in situations of stress or illness. When they disappear, recovery from infections, surgeries, or hospital stays becomes slower and riskier. At this point, sarcopenia reveals itself as an invisible threat because it does not show up only on the scale. The older adult celebrates when numbers go down, but does not realize that strength and endurance are also disappearing. The problem only becomes evident when the first signs appear: difficulty lifting objects, lack of energy to walk long distances, loss of appetite for protein-rich foods, and especially frequent falls or insecurity while moving around. These signs cannot be ignored, as they are the first warnings that lean mass is at risk. That is why when talking about weight loss with GLP-1 in old age, it is not about aesthetics or numbers on the scale, but about preserving what truly matters: independence, the ability to live with quality, and the confidence that the body is still strong enough to sustain life. Recognizing sarcopenia as a silent enemy is the first step to fighting it with strategy and prevention. When we talk about muscle loss associated with GLP-1 medications, we are not dealing with suppositions or unfounded fears. Science has already investigated the subject and produced concrete numbers. Clinical studies carried out with different age groups show that on average between 20 and 40% of the weight lost with these drugs comes from lean mass. In other words, for every 10 kilograms eliminated, 2 to 4 may be muscle. This proportion varies depending on age, physical activity level, and protein intake. But the trend is clear. The older the patient, the higher the risk of losing muscle along with fat. A frequently cited example is the STEP study, which analyzed semaglutide, one of the most widely used GLP-1s in the world. Researchers observed that, although the weight loss results were impressive, the reduction in lean mass accompanied that of body fat in proportions that drew attention. Among older participants, this relative muscle loss was even more pronounced. Another relevant finding comes from body composition analyses using DEXA scans, which accurately separate fat, muscle, and bone. These tests confirm that the rapid and intense weight loss promoted by GLP-1 leads to a reduction in muscle mass that cannot be ignored. Beyond the amount of muscle lost, there are also important functional changes. In studies that measured hand grip strength, one of the main indicators of vitality in the elderly, many patients worsened even after reducing weight and controlling blood sugar. This means that, despite being leaner and metabolically stable, they were less strong, which increases the risks of falls, hospitalizations, and loss of independence. It is the kind of contradiction that shows health goes far beyond the scale. It is not enough to lose kilograms. It is necessary to understand where they are coming from. Another point science has highlighted is the psychological impact of this process. Many patients report frustration upon realizing that despite having a lighter body, they cannot perform activities that previously seemed simple. Climbing stairs, carrying groceries, or walking at a brisk pace can become more tiring than before treatment. This paradoxical effect, losing weight but feeling weaker, contributes to early discontinuation of medication or reduced motivation to maintain new healthy habits. It is important to stress that this does not mean GLP-1s are villains. On the contrary, they represent a significant advance against obesity and diabetes, diseases that kill millions every year. The problem is not the medication itself, but the context in which it is used. If the person does not accompany treatment with adequate protein intake, strength training, and regular medical monitoring, the likelihood of losing muscle is enormous. The role of science in this case is to raise awareness so that use is safe, especially among the elderly. Therefore, the evidence is already established. Yes, GLP-1s promote muscle loss, and this is more serious in older adults. What we need to discuss now is not whether this happens, but how we can prevent it from happening. This is where practical strategies to protect lean mass come in, and it is on these strategies that we need to focus next. If there is one point that must be hammered into the mind of every older adult starting a GLP-1 treatment, it is this: protein is not optional, it is essential. When the body enters an accelerated weight loss process, it seeks energy in every available reserve, and muscle can become a victim of this process. The only way to protect this precious mass is to provide enough building blocks for reconstruction, and those blocks are the amino acids that come from protein. Without adequate intake, muscle literally breaks down to sustain the body's needs. Science is clear about the numbers. While young adults can maintain themselves with 0.8 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per day, people over 60 need much more to compensate for the body's reduced efficiency in synthesizing muscle. The current recommendation for older adults ranges from 1.2 to 1.5 grams of protein per kilogram per day, and can reach up to 2 grams in cases of already existing muscle loss or in patients who are losing weight rapidly. This means that for a 70-kilogram senior, the goal is no less than 90 grams of protein daily, distributed across all meals. But here is the detail that makes the difference. It is useless to concentrate all that protein in one plate. The body, especially in older adults, cannot efficiently process large loads of protein all at once. The ideal approach is to divide intake throughout the day, with at least 25 to 30 grams of protein in each main meal, continuously stimulating muscle protein synthesis. This regularity prevents accelerated loss and ensures strength is maintained. Protein sources are plentiful, and they do not have to be complicated or expensive. Eggs, milk, cheese, natural yogurt, chicken, fish, and lean red meat are accessible and effective options. For those who struggle with meat, Legumes such as beans, lentils, and chickpeas combined with rice also provide quality protein, though in lower concentrations. In some cases, whey protein supplements or plant-based protein powders can be powerful allies, especially when appetite diminishes due to the GLP-1 effect, which reduces interest in large meals. Another crucial point is the choice of high-quality proteins, those that provide all essential amino acids. Older adults need sufficient amounts of leucine, an amino acid critical for triggering muscle protein synthesis. Studies show that a minimum dose of 2 to 3 grams of leucine per meal is necessary to activate this switch for muscle building. In practice, this equals a medium chicken breast, 2 eggs with cheese, or a well-dosed scoop of whey protein. Equally important is the role of hydration. Without enough water, protein is not metabolized efficiently, and the risk of kidney overload increases. The practical recommendation is simple. Every time protein intake is increased, water consumption must also increase. For most older adults, at least 1.5 to 2 liters per day is ideal, adjusted according to medical condition. Finally, it is worth emphasizing that protein intake must be seen as a health strategy, not a trend. It is the #1 key to preventing weight loss from turning into frailty. More than counting calories, counting grams of protein will determine whether an older adult using GLP-1 achieves a lighter and healthier body, or risks losing not only fat, but also the foundation of their independence. When talking about weight loss in later life, many people assume that daily walking is enough to stay healthy. Walking is excellent, yes, but it is not enough when it comes to protecting muscle mass while using GLP-1. Muscle needs specific stimulus to avoid breaking down, and that stimulus comes from strength training. The human body works according to the law of adaptation. What is not used is lost. If muscles are not progressively challenged, they understand they can be discarded. This is why the second key of the anti-sarcopenia plan is clear. Every older adult who wants to lose weight without losing muscle must include strength exercises adapted to their reality. Strength training does not mean lifting heavy dumbbells in a crowded gym. It can be done at home with body weight, resistance bands, or even water bottles. What matters is to challenge the muscles regularly, forcing them to contract against resistance. This can be done with chair-supported squats, wall push-ups, sit-to-stand exercises without using hands, or lifting 1-liter bottles simulating biceps curls. Each of these simple movements can activate muscle fibers and stimulate strength preservation. Besides simplicity, safety must be addressed. Older adults who have never trained before should start slowly, with short sets of 10 repetitions, 2 or 3 times a week, always respecting their body's limits. As adaptation occurs, the number of sets, repetitions, and resistance can be increased. The secret is progression. The muscle must be slightly challenged to grow, but never to the point of generating disabling pain or risk of injury. That is why, whenever possible, guidance from a physiotherapist or fitness professional makes a huge difference. Another crucial detail is that strength training not only preserves muscles, but also improves bone density. This means a lower risk of osteoporosis and fractures, common issues in old age. Additionally, strength exercises improve balance, reduce the risk of falls, and strengthen joints, making the body more prepared for everyday challenges. The psychological impact is also noteworthy. Many older adults report increased confidence, better posture, and even a sense of rejuvenation after a few weeks of practice. Realizing they can still perform movements once considered difficult boosts self-esteem and reinforces discipline to maintain other healthy habits, such as proper nutrition and adherence to medical treatment. In summary, while protein provides the building blocks for muscle, strength training gives the body the command to use them. Without it, ingested protein may be diverted to other functions, and the risk of sarcopenia remains. With proper stimulus, however, every protein-rich meal turns into living, active, protective muscle. The message is simple. Walking is good for the heart, but strength training is indispensable for maintaining independence. No medication should be seen as an automatic solution that requires no adjustments, and this applies doubly to GLP-1 use in older adults. Every body responds differently, and the dose that works for one patient may be excessive or insufficient for another. That is why the third key of the anti-sarcopenia plan is to understand that treatment requires pauses, reviews, and constant adjustments, always guided by a physician. The goal is not only to lose weight, but to ensure that this loss is healthy, preserving muscles and maintaining the energy necessary for daily life. One of the most common mistakes is believing that the higher the dose, the faster the weight loss, and therefore the better. This logic can be dangerous. Accelerated weight loss increases the risk of lean mass being consumed along with fat. Moreover, very rapid weight loss often comes with fatigue, dizziness, and greater vulnerability to falls, problems already critical in old age. Adjusting the dose so that weight loss is gradual, in line with the body's ability to adapt, is a much safer strategy. Another important point is the possibility of pausing treatment at certain stages. If the patient has already reached an initial weight loss goal, stabilizing the body for a few weeks before resuming the medication may be recommended. This pause allows the body to adjust to its new weight, strengthen muscles through proper nutrition and strength training, and reduce the risk of sarcopenia. In some cases, even temporary suspension of the drug can be beneficial, as long as it is closely monitored by a healthcare professional. Medical follow-up should include regular exams that evaluate not just the scale, but also body composition. Tests such as DEXA are the most comprehensive to measure fat percentage and lean mass, but even simple tests such as hand grip strength already provide valuable information about muscle health. This broader perspective allows the physician to adjust treatment not just to reduce fat, but to preserve muscles and bones. It is also crucial to consider how GLP-1s interact with other medications. Many older adults already take drugs for blood pressure, cholesterol, heart issues, or depression, and some of these can interfere with appetite, metabolism, or nutrient absorption. Excessive use of medications, known as polypharmacy, is a real risk in this age group, and only a doctor can safely evaluate which combinations are most appropriate. Ultimately, pausing or adjusting treatment does not mean weakness or lack of discipline, but rather intelligence and care for the body. Weight loss must be sustainable, not a race against time. The goal is not just to lower numbers on the scale, but to live stronger with more energy and independence. Professional supervision, strategic pauses, and individual adjustments are the guarantee that GLP-1 treatment will be not only effective, but also safe and compatible with the needs of those over 60. Until recently, speaking of GLP-1 treatment automatically meant dealing with needles and weekly injections. For many older adults, this was a psychological and practical barrier. Fear of injections, difficulty handling syringes or pens, and even vision or motor coordination problems that made the process difficult. This obstacle led many to give up on treatment before even starting. But science is now moving in a direction that may change this scenario. Oral forms of GLP-1. Recent clinical research is testing pills that promise to offer the same benefits as injections, but with the practicality of a dose swallowed with a glass of water. Oral semaglutide, for example, is already in advanced stages of evaluation and shows encouraging results. The idea of replacing injections with capsules opens a new perspective, especially for older adults who value simplicity and convenience in treatment. After all, taking a pill in the morning is much more acceptable than facing weekly needles. However, it must be understood that oral forms are not free from challenges. Absorption of the drug through the digestive system can vary greatly from person to person, requiring dose adjustments and stricter monitoring. Moreover, side effects such as nausea, diarrhea, and abdominal discomfort remain possible, since they are tied to the drug's mechanism of action and not just the route of administration. Therefore, it is not a perfect solution, but rather a promising alternative that can expand treatment access. Another point of attention is that by making use easier, pills may increase the number of older adults adhering to treatment. This brings benefits, but also risks. Without the barrier of injections, the likelihood grows that people will start using them without proper medical monitoring, believing that simply taking a pill is enough to lose weight healthily. This illusion can be dangerous because, as we have seen, weight loss without strategies to preserve muscle can lead to sarcopenia and frailty. New research also includes combining GLP-1 with other classes of drugs in the same capsule, enhancing results in controlling diabetes and obesity. These advances may represent the near future of treatment, making therapy more effective and tailored to individual needs. But until then, it is essential to maintain a critical and informed approach. It is not enough to celebrate the ease of a pill. we must understand that the challenge of preserving muscle mass remains. In summary, oral forms of GLP-1 are an important step toward democratizing treatment and making it more accessible to older adults who struggle with injections. But they do not change the essence of the issue. Rapid weight loss still carries the risk of muscle loss. The pill may make adherence easier, but protein intake, strength training, and medical supervision remain indispensable. The future may bring more convenience, but the responsibility to protect muscle will remain the same. After understanding the risks, the mechanisms of the medications, and the individual strategies for protection, it is time to put everything together in a simple, practical, and direct plan. The goal is that any person over 60 who uses GLP-1 can apply in daily life a set of habits capable of preserving muscles, maintaining strength, and ensuring independence. For this reason, we present the Anti-Sarcopenia Plan in 7 steps, a checklist that can be printed and placed on the refrigerator, reminding every day that losing weight healthily means protecting the body from the inside out. Step 1. Consume protein at every meal. The body needs amino acids all the time, not only at lunch or dinner. That is why each meal should include a quality protein source, whether eggs, cheese, yogurt, chicken, fish, meat, or well-combined legumes. The minimum goal is 25 to 30 grams of protein at every main meal. Step 2. Drink enough water. Hydration is essential to metabolize protein and preserve kidney function. Older adults tend to feel less thirst, but the need remains. The practical rule is to consume between 1.5 and 2 liters of water daily, adjusting according to medical advice. Every time protein intake increases, water consumption must increase as well. Step 3. Do strength training 3 times a week. Resistance exercises are the trigger that ensures ingested protein becomes muscle. Sit-to-stand movements, wall push-ups, resistance bands, or light weights are already enough to stimulate the body. The secret lies in regularity and progression, gradually increasing intensity. Step 4. Monitor weight and thigh circumference. The scale does not tell the whole story. Often weight drops, but muscle mass decreases along with it. Measuring thigh circumference regularly is a simple way to check whether muscle is being preserved. A significant reduction is a red flag. Step 5. Review medications with a doctor regularly. Polypharmacy is common in older age. Some drugs can reduce appetite, impair nutrient absorption, or increase fall risk. Reviewing medication lists at every consultation helps identify dangerous interactions and make necessary adjustments. Step 6. Check vitamin D and B12 levels. These micronutrients are fundamental for muscle and neurological health. Vitamin D deficiency increases the risk of falls and fractures, while B12 deficiency may cause weakness and even dementia-like symptoms. Simple tests help identify and correct deficiencies quickly. Step 7. Adjust the GLP-1 dose according to medical advice. Losing weight too quickly is dangerous. Gradual weight loss allows the body to adapt and helps preserve muscle. Following the doctor's protocol, making strategic pauses, and not exceeding recommended doses are essential parts of sarcopenia prevention. This plan is not complex, but it requires discipline. It works like a roadmap guiding older adults through treatment, reminding them that the real goal is not just to lose fat, but to ensure a functional, strong body prepared to sustain life with independence. More than a checklist, the Anti-Sarcopenia Plan is a pact of care with one's own future. We have now reached the conclusion of this journey, and the central message must be clear both as a warning and as encouragement. Losing weight is important, but losing muscle may cost independence itself. GLP-1 medications represent one of the greatest advances in treating obesity and diabetes, and there is no doubt they can save lives. However, they are not a standalone solution. When used without strategy, they may open the door to sarcopenia, a silent enemy that robs strength, energy, and autonomy, especially after 60. The good news is that this risk can be avoided. With sufficient protein in every meal, regular strength training, pauses and dose adjustments supervised by doctors, adequate hydration, and monitoring of key nutrients such as vitamin D and B12, it is possible to reap all the benefits of treatment without paying with vitality. The secret lies in transforming weight loss into a strengthening project. in which every kilogram of fat lost is accompanied by the preservation or even the gain of muscle. The message is straightforward. It is not enough to celebrate the scale. It is necessary to celebrate the energy to walk, the confidence to climb stairs, the security of standing up from a chair without support, the freedom to carry a bag without fear of falling. These small details determine whether life after 60 will be marked by autonomy or dependence. And all of them depend on the conscious choice to protect lean mass. That is why, when using GLP-1, never forget, the medication is just a tool. The true transformation comes from the combination of science and daily habits. It is up to each older adult, together with their doctor and family, to decide whether weight loss will be a bridge to better health or a trap of fragility. With information, discipline, and care, the path can be one of lightness and strength, of less fat and more vitality, of a lighter yet more capable body to sustain life. And here is the practical invitation. Make the anti-sarcopenia plan in 7 steps. Your personal guide. Print it, place it on the refrigerator, share it with friends and family. Transform each meal, each workout, and each choice into an investment to ensure the future is lived with dignity and independence. Because in the end, it is not only about losing weight, it is about continuing to live with the freedom of being the owner of your body, your strength, and your life.